Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's the Wrestling Classic here, back for the TWC Show live on Ruckus Avenue Radio, on the Ruckus Avenue Radio website or the Free Dash Radio app. You can also listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts. If you subscribe to the TWC Show podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you also get all my casual conversation interviews. Just did one with Will Sasso. Surprised that picked up Dirt Sheet coverage. I was really shocked about that. And coming up next this Tuesday, we will be having none other than probably the hottest act in wrestling right now, considering that everybody's injured, Wardlow. So look out for that. But today, guys, the TWC Show, I got a very special co-host for the first time ever. Another first time ever. We have none other than Julie Cutler. How are you today?
I am doing amazing, Justin, now that I'm here. I feel like we've been talking about doing this for so long, so I'm just so excited that we were finally able to make it happen. I feel like there were so many things going on these past couple of weeks, especially in the world of wrestling. So yeah, it's good that we were finally able to carve out some time to do this. I'm really excited.
And I know you want to do more stuff in wrestling, and I said we'd do something together at some point. You can come on this show. This show's like the freelance. We just do whatever show. So to let people know, like, what have you done so far? What is your wrestling fandom all about? Like, when did you get into it? Give us a little bit of background on you.
Yeah, so I've actually been really heavy into wrestling since I was probably about 6 or 7 years old, I would say. So my older brother and one of our close family friends, who's basically like a brother to me at this point, they're, a little bit older than me. They were kind of getting into wrestling around that time. And so, me being like the pesky little sister, I was kind of interested in what the older kids were doing. And so I actually remember, I think I was playing in my family room one day, and my brother had wrestling on TV. And I don't remember exactly what match it was. I remember the Dudley Boys were on TV.
Yeah.
And I don't remember like the exact context. I don't know if it was something that he taped that we were watching back, because I think it was a Saturday. I know that's when they used to do, I don't know if you remember, like Velocity and Jacked and all those.
Yeah, Velocity, Jacked, Sunday Night Heat, all those shows.
Yeah, all of that good stuff. So I can't remember. I don't know if it was live or if it was like something that was taped, but I just started watching it with him. And I think at that point in time, like being so young, there was so much of the athletic piece that, as I've gotten older, I've gotten a lot more, knowledgeable about that piece of it, of course. But, when I was little, I think it was really like the storytelling aspect and just like the whole concept of wrestling being a sport that also has like a character storytelling piece to it, which is kind of makes it unlike anything else. And so that was kind of what pulled me in at a young age. And so, I grew up doing the whole 9 yards, we go into, watching all the shows, we had all the action figures, all the video games. I remember when the video games came out with general manager mode, you could start booking your own shows. I literally kept a notebook where I would plan out like all of my feuds, all of my matches. Like I took being the GM of SmackDown very seriously.
I just did that generally with my universe mode. I think my buddy actually forwarded me back. Devin, who was the co-host of the TWC Show when we started, he just forwarded me back an email I sent him a couple of years back where I used to like play the video games, but I would fully like book everything to my pay-per-views. So just if I like stopped playing for like a month or two or something, like I could go back into my like Word document and see what I did on the last pay-per-view. Yeah, I could see where I left off from on my last pay-per-view. And I keep a history of my title history and I keep a history of my pay-per-view results. And just based off those two things, I'd be like, oh, this is what I was doing. These were my angles. Those were my champions. Okay. And it was such a like wrestling nerd thing to do. I wish and I've been saying this for years, so like it's probably like redundant to people that I'm probably not going to do it, but I'm like, I would love to like do something like that again, but like do it on Twitch where everyone could watch me like build my universe and tell my stories, and like have a website where they could like keep track of like who my title history and my pay-per-view results went on to you. Because I was like, I had fun doing it, but I used to do it for myself. I'm like, imagine like I could do this for an audience of people that would be like, oh, Justin booked like this person for that person, it's gonna happen. I'm like, it'd be fun, but
maybe this is like a whole sidebar conversation. I'm like, we need to do a Twitch collab.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Wrestling
If
universe.
someone wants to help me with, and I've said this many times, someone wants to help me with like the technology side of it, I'm game to do it. Like I'll
Same.
play and I'll do all that. Just like set the stuff up, show me how to do it, like moderate the Twitch account, and I'll do everything else. That's not hard, but
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm like not a huge I'm okay. Like I can do enough to sort of get by, but at a certain point, like for being a young person, there's a lot that
I'm sure if I tried to figure it out myself, I could. I've just never made that much of an effort to.
Yeah, I
You
feel
know?
I kind of feel the same way, but basically like I grew up being really heavy into wrestling, and it was always kind of like it was a little bit of an anomaly because I feel like I remember going to school and like I was the only like first, second grade girl that I know that was like
Yeah.
really heavy into wrestling. I actually remember when WWE, when they had to change their name from WWF due to the World Wildlife Foundation, I believe it was, having that
Yeah.
trademark issue with them. And so I remember going to school and telling like the other boys in my class, I remember being like, oh, like WWF has become WWE now. And I like explained, I was like, oh, there was like this whole lawsuit, blah, blah, blah. And
Yeah.
they were like, no, it's not. That's not true. And I was like, lo and behold.
You've been a lifelong fan. Like you've been a fan for as far back as you remember.
Yeah. And
We
so this
go on.
past year,
Yeah.
I kind of honestly inadvertently started getting like into the wrestling podcast world a little bit. And I feel like once I did one show, I was like, oh, like I kind of just did it. I got invited to do a podcast. There's a couple of guys, Justin and Dhillon, ironically enough.
Oh wow. Wow, that's my actual name. That's like my
Yeah,
name is Justin Dhillon, and your podcast with Justin and Dhillon. That's crazy.
yeah. So
Wow.
they run a group on social media that's called
Yeah.
Nerds of Wrestling, and I think Justin had previously done a podcast that was targeted towards like up and coming indie wrestlers, and
Yeah.
he wanted to start something new. So we had kind of crossed paths on social media and also at some Northeast wrestling events. That's kind of like one of the independent promotions that's more local to my area. And so they had asked me, they were like, do you want to be a guest on our show? Do you want to be the first guest on our show? And I was kind of like, yeah, sure. Why not? Like, so that would be fun. I'd like to try that. Why not? Put myself out there a little bit, do something different, see how it goes. So we did it. And it was really like, I really enjoyed the experience. I mean, it was, a brand new podcast. I don't know how many people watched it at that point, but it
Yeah.
was a lot of fun. And so
It allowed you to go out there, talk about wrestling, and be comfortable doing so. Because I think that is the hardest part for a lot of people. Is like one, there's always oh man, there's a million podcasts, a million people talking about wrestling. Like, well, who's gonna listen to me? Then the second part is, we're so used to sharing our opinions with our friends or in group chats and this and that, but like to put it out there for everybody to hear, it's kind of like and then putting yourself on camera and talking about it and being confident behind your opinions and thoughts, because wrestling fans are passionate, man. They'll come at you if they think you said something silly or stupid. They're not going to hold back. And once you get over that, then you're chilling, I think. And I think once you do one or two either podcasts or interviews, like you did that, then obviously you did the stuff where Sean Ross Sapp for Fightful, where you guys did predictions. I'm sure you've done other stuff, but the more you do stuff, the more you're like, oh, okay, like it doesn't. Your skin gets thicker. You're like, I don't really care. Like, my opinion. It is what it is. My opinion could be this week, and give it like 3 weeks later, it might be different. And you can call me a hypocrite, but it's just like, I see things from a different perspective eventually.
That's the thing, and that's the beauty. I think sometimes people forget that's kind of the beauty of this. It's sports entertainment. It's meant to be entertainment. People are going to have differing opinions on it, and I think that sometimes people get really caught up, especially with like the major promotions kind of being like one side or the other.
I was against them. That's what it is. It's a weird mentality.
And it doesn't have to be that way. Like people can enjoy what they enjoy. It's meant to be subjective, and that's the beauty of it, is that there's something for everything, especially in the the wrestling world now, with the way that the landscape is, there's a lot more options than there were a couple of years ago.
So much. Like, even from when I started my page in 2014, like, there was a lot going on, and you know, it's hard to like watch everything. And then there's certain people that judge you. There'll be like, you don't watch this. It's like, no, I barely have time to watch the stuff that's on TV. You want me to watch everything else too? Like, there's a lot of that being said, there was a lot of wrestling this past week, and we got to touch on a bunch of it.
Oh my god, I'm excited about that too.
So usually we're definitely doing Money in the Bank predictions on this show. But usually when there's a lot of things to talk about, I will do a post show for the pay-per-views as like a bonus show, but we didn't do that for Forbidden Door. So I need to talk about Forbidden Door a little bit.
Yes, I would love to talk about Forbidden Door.
Overall, what was your perspective on the pay-per-view? I'm just going to say really quickly, those that have been listening to the show every week, those that follow me on Instagram, those are people that are a part of the Discord, you know that I wasn't really that excited for this show and the buildup of it until the week of. I felt like the week of, I was like, oh, this card's actually not bad. Originally, I thought the card was pretty bad, and then I looked at when they announced all the matches on the card the Wednesday prior to Forbidden Door. I'm like, oh, this is a pretty stacked card. Like, yeah, there's still gonna be a little part of me that's upset that Bryan's not on it and Punk's not on it, but I'm like, it's a pretty stacked card. They found a way to make it still very intriguing, even though a lot of it was booked last minute or just matches booked for the sake of matches being booked. But I'm like, it'll be like a good card. And that all being said, it was exactly what I expected it to be. I don't think it was the best show of the year, a mind-blowing, game-changing show. I think it was like a really good wrestling show. From top to bottom, the wrestling was good.
It was very good. I kind of felt the same way. I remember when I was first looking at the card, there were a couple of matches that I was kind of like, oh, okay, that sounds not bad, but I was like, it sounds okay. I know some people were kind of saying that it was a cursed show just because of the number of injuries that there have been recently. I guess
there was a bunch of original plans. Obviously, those Punk and Tanahashi, and it looked like they were going to do Zack Sabre Jr. and Bryan Danielson, and the Young Bucks said that their match changed like 6 times before they got to this on BTE. So it's like, I understand why it's a cursed show, and I think just wrestling right now seems like a very cursed situation, because even on the flip side, on the other show, you know, the rumors was that it was supposed to be Orton versus Roman at SummerSlam. Now Brock's back, and then Cody got hurt. Like, wrestling's a little cursed right now.
Wrestling has been bonkers.
Rhea Ripley was supposed to fight Bianca, and then Rhea's hurt, and it's just been insanity right now. Then Blood and Guts and Santana got hurt. We'll get there, but it's just like, this is crazy.
If you think about just like the number of insane headlines that have come out over the course of the past couple of months, it's just been like, it's so much to keep up with. Like, every time that I think things can't get more chaotic, like something
happens. I'm like, nothing's gonna happen, and something happens. Even if it's Sasha guys walking out, or if it's, you know, like, it's just, and there's so many people missing that like I tune in to watch. It's like, I'm a big Sasha fan, I'm a big Orton fan, I'm a big Charlotte fan. There's a bunch of people, Cody and CM Punk and Danielson. I'm like, these are all guys I enjoy, and all of them are injured. This is great. Not that I don't enjoy a lot of the other people either, but those are like people like to tune in to see. But I thought Forbidden Door was a good show. Do you have a match for you that stood out the most to you, or anything that was like your favorite? Okay.
I absolutely adored the Will Ospreay Orange Cassidy match. So when I was watching this pay-per-view, I was super overtired on Sunday. And when I get overtired, I get like a little bit, I don't know, my sense of humor just like spirals out of control. So,
like, in a good way or in a negative way? Do you find like everything funny, or
in a good way? I think in a fun way. But I was super overtired, and I was watching that match. It was just, I think, you know, over time, Orange Cassidy, he's actually been booked in a lot of like pretty big headline kind of matches. And it's interesting because him being in like a little bit of a comedy role as a performer, and also being the fact that he's not like, he's a built guy, but he's not like a huge guy.
And he can work. He can actually work too. And I think people forget that. Like, he, outside of the gimmick, like, he can work. Yeah.
Exactly. I think that it's, you know, sometimes it's kind of easy to underestimate him just because he does a little bit more of the comedy shtick than what a lot of people sort of in like the mainstream wrestling world are probably used to. But when you put him in a situation he can go, and he can go with his hands in his pockets, which is the crazy part.
Which is so weird because like that should, like, I remember watching, I'm like, this should be like, being the old school fan, I'm like, this should bother me, but I'm like, it kind of felt nice to have something silly like that on a card that was so much serious wrestling. I've said this for years. When I think of New Japan Pro Wrestling, I have a different expectation from every company, and that's what I think confuses my following sometimes. And I should probably make a video about this because they'll be like, "Oh, why do you say this about AEW, but then you say this about WWE?" I'm like, because I have different like, I don't expect nothing from New Japan besides good wrestling. I want them to wrestle. And then when it comes to WWE, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't really care about the wrestling. I want them to entertain me. They're a sports entertainment company. Well, give me some good storylines and characters then, because that's what you guys claim to be. I don't care about a 4-segment match from the WWE. It doesn't do anything for me. Like, give me good matches on the pay-per-view and entertain me on the people that sit there and complain, man, there was only like 10 minutes of wrestling on SmackDown this week. I'm like, great. There shouldn't be more than 10 minutes on SmackDown, because we need to build some characters and storylines so when they actually do have big matches, they mean something. If we're just going to have long matches on SmackDown, what's the point? We're in this weird divide of wrestling fans right now, where there's fans that love wrestling, like the in-ring stuff, and then there's the fans that like the moments. And it's fun because it's crazy, because a lot of the people my age and my group, like, we don't want to admit it, but like, we really grew up on characters in the moments. We grew up on Stone Cold and Beer Trucks and the NWO and DX and Evolution. Like, we had wrestling too, and really good wrestling, but unless you were like a hardcore tape trader fan, like, you just enjoyed the moments and the characters.
Exactly.
And now there's this gatekeeping from the people that just love the wrestling. Like, give me like a 20-minute class, and then what? Then you get another one next week and another one the week after that, and none of them mean anything. So, like,
I think for me, it's all about balance, because for me, you can't really have one without the other to some degree.
No, 100%. And that's why I think this match came at a perfect time in the show, because there was so much wrestling, and then came Orange Cassidy and Will Ospreay, and it was still a really good wrestling match, but it was entertaining.
It was very entertaining. The way that they played off each other. The thing is, like, I was really excited to see Will Ospreay on Forbidden Door in general, just because I think right now he's pretty widely regarded as one of the best technical wrestlers in the world. And I think that the interaction, the way that he and Orange Cassidy played off of each other was great. Like, I think that he's someone that has a really good balance of the technical wrestling background, but also bringing character moments into the match.
I love the way that Orange would like mock Will Ospreay's moveset and like his flip stuff. Because a lot of people only know Will Ospreay for like the clips they've seen on the internet of doing all the crazy flips and the
thing. Stuff. There was a lot of that, but the thing that I appreciated about it was also very clean. It was done very cleanly. Like,
no, I think this showed a difference for people that only seen Will Ospreay in those clips. This showed a different side of him, because he wrestled. He wasn't just doing clips and stuff. He had a wrestling match with Orange Cassidy for the most part.
I think that they had a good balance of both. It was, I don't know exactly. I have to go back and double check on the match length. It was a pretty decently long match. Like, there were a lot of moments where, like, you almost thought it was going to be over, and they came back, and it was just so action packed, and it had so many of those little like back and forth fun character moments that match really did a lot for me. It was like
17 minutes long, basically.
I was you know, like I said, I was really overtired when I was watching this match, and so I was like reacting very heavily. I was sitting with my brother as I was watching it. He was like, "Julie, are you going to be okay?" But I loved the way that they played off of each other in this match. I think on this pay-per-view in general, like you said, I think that the quality of the wrestling, and I think being the fact that New Japan was involved, again, like, this was kind of the expectation that I had, was that the quality of the wrestling itself was going to be very high. I felt that way also about the women's championship match with Thunder Rosa and Toni Storm.
It was just a solid wrestling match.
It was very solid, and you can tell the difference sometimes, like, between people when you see that quality of wrestling between two women that are both, like, I think Toni Storm's been wrestling since she was like, what, 13 years old?
For a very long time, yeah.
For people that have that level of experience, it's like, as soon as you see two people like that get in the ring together, and you see them lock up, and you see just like the super clean reversals that they have on things, like, I think sometimes, you know, I'll be watching other matches and you see people kind of like doing rest holds and trying to pull reversals on one another. And sometimes it can just appear a little bit sloppy. You know, they're pulling each other's hair and they're kind of like, you know, pushing each other out of the way, that kind of a thing. But with the two of them, it was just like one rest hold, like boom, reversal into the next thing, boom, reversal into the next thing. And
I
it was
know a lot of people have been critical of Thunder Rosa's reign as champion right now, and you know it's been kind of boring, or she can't cut promos. And I'm not gonna say none of that is 100% not true, but I will say what I do know about Thunder Rosa is, if you look at her reign, less of a perspective of how she's cutting promos and her feuds and how much she's doing on Dynamite and Rampage every week. The one thing that you should really check and look at when you're looking at her reign, if you can put all that other stuff aside, is she's really focusing on giving you quality wrestling matches. Because at the end of the day, like Serena D versus Thunder Rosa was like the best match on that card at Double or Nothing.
That was another match. Another match I was going to bring up as well.
Yeah, like it's just like Thunder is like, her focus isn't about being the most entertaining or the most charismatic. She's no Britt Baker by no means with charisma and all that stuff, but she's gonna come out there and she's almost like, I'm not gonna make this comparison like exact, but like this comparison is like a broad comparison. It's not like an exact comparison, but Brett was the wrestler's wrestler. Sean had a lot more charisma, and that might be a little bit of the difference there. Thunder's gonna come out there and she's gonna wrestle, whereas Britt's your charisma, a little bit more flamboyance, a little bit more like character. And I think that's the way you got to look at it, because a lot of people are like, man, we miss Britt as champion. I'm like, yeah, but Britt was a different kind of champion. You need to look at Thunder as like the fighting champion, and when you look at it like that, it's a different story because she's really good at what she does in the ring.
I think so too, and I think that it'll be interesting to see as things sort of unfold. I feel like over the course of the past couple of years since AEW's come into existence, we're starting to see more names on the roster coming and going, especially with the women's division. I feel like at first the women's division was very small, and now they're starting to pull in like a couple more big names over time. And so I'm really interested to see a little bit more variety in terms of who they're pairing together, because like you said, I think Thunder Rosa, if I were someone on the roster, if I were a woman on the roster there, I would be like clamoring to learn from Thunder Rosa and Serena Deeb and the women that have like that level of technical in-ring experience. I think it's, you know, really valuable to have those kinds of people on your roster, as well as the Britt Bakers, who
you need a little bit of everything.
Britt has come such a long way since she started in AEW. I feel like previously she had kind of only really ever been a baby face. And then when she first started doing this heel run, at first it was kind of like a little, okay, how is this going to go? And then I feel like once she really leaned into it, she really got into her groove. And now I think especially during her championship reign and you know, continuing on now, she's really found like her pocket as being a heel. And and I think you know, it'll be interesting to see as they start incorporating more people. I'd love to see them kind of utilize Ruby Soho a little bit more. I think we've seen a lot of growth from Anna Jay. We've seen a lot of growth from Ty Conti.
I really wish Ty would start wrestling again and stop being Sammy's valet. I get it, but wrestle, please. Like, have matches on Dark. Do something. Wrestle.
I have mixed feelings, because I think Ty's improved in the ring a lot, actually, these past several months.
She was someone that had anyone that kind of went through that NXT system, though, has a little bit more polish than the guys that came straight off the indies. The guys and girls that came straight off the indies. And that's no disrespect to them. It's just that they went through that system. They were with the best trainers in the world and wrestlers, and they were under the wing of, you know, Triple H and Shawn Michaels and Norman Smiley and all these people, that they come in with a little bit more of a polished level of development compared to some of the people that come straight off the independents and never really had anyone tell them like, hey, that kind of isn't right, do something. Ty has that, and that's the one thing I would give her. Like, she might not be the best wrestler, but you knew she came in there with a little bit of polish and experience, which was nice.
Yes.
And I kind of miss seeing her wrestle, though.
I do too. I did actually. There was one match from Double or Nothing that I feel like actually it was the mixed tag with Ty, Sammy, and Frankie Kazarian against
and
American Top Team.
Yeah.
And that was actually, I feel like it was pretty poorly received online. I actually really enjoyed that match. I did the Double or Nothing post-show review with Sean Ross Sapp. That was kind of I did a couple shows with Fightful now. I'm sort of
a Fightful correspondent.
Yes, I'm sort of on guard for I will definitely be back. I don't know exactly when yet, but as soon as the next opportunity arises, I'll definitely be sharing with you and sharing more widely. But that was kind of like the first show that I did with Fightful that I think was really more widely viewed. And I remember we were talking about that match, and I think the general consensus was a lot of people were just kind of like, thank God that's over. I actually really enjoyed that match. I thought I think in general, Sammy and Ty together on TV, I know obviously there was a lot of controversy online surrounding, their personal life and whatever when all that happened.
Fans are getting involved with Sammy's personal decisions.
Which is at the end of the day, nobody else's business. But I love the fact that they capitalized on that and turned it into a story for TV, because I think that they're like the perfect hateable heel couple.
I don't mind them being together and her coming out there with Sammy and stuff, but I would like her to still wrestle.
Yeah, I did. She did wrestle a part in that mixed tag match, and I actually thought she looked pretty good.
That was the last time she's had a match, I think, though.
I do think that was the last match that she had.
That's what I mean. I miss her wrestling on a regular, but even if it's like she has matches on Dark still, even though she's sounding like it's cool, she can wrestle.
Yeah.
We're gonna quickly get through Forbidden Door because we got lots to talk about.
Okay.
Other things I want to point out really quickly. After Will Ospreay and Orange Cassidy, why did my voice automatically change? After Will Ospreay and Orange Cassidy, I was a big fan of. I am a big fan, and anyone that's followed my page since 2014 knows I'm a big fan of Shibata. So to see him make that surprise appearance, I know for a lot of people, you might not be New Japan fans. This was probably like your first exposure to New Japan. I know I have friends that are big AEW fans, and when Tanahashi came out, they're like, "Who is that?" Listen, guys. Listen, AEW, there are people that watch wrestling that don't know everything, but watch your product. The casual fan does exist.
That's one thing I would actually critique on as well, is that I think sometimes AEW, it's great. Like if you're a hardcore wrestling fan, the booking is a lot of fun.
Very towards the hardcore fan, though. They cater to that fan. And I'm the biggest CM Punk fan. I've like a really big reason, and I resonate with Punk a lot, and I'll always have a special place for CM Punk. But man, that whole comment that there's no casual fans, I'm like, dude, you are wrong, like dead wrong. There is casual fans. I have buddies in my own circle of friends that will watch WWE when it's on, that will watch AEW, that will order the AEW pay-per-views, and then Tanahashi walks out there and they're like, who is that?
Yeah.
And that actually happened, because they're casual fans. They enjoy your product. It doesn't mean they know they're watching New Japan and they're watching Dragon Gate and they're watching, you know what I mean? That's not the case.
Yeah. And I agree. I think that that's something that AEW could do a lot better. And I think even just beyond Forbidden Door, just looking at AEW Dark and Dark Elevation, they bring in a lot of independent talent, which is great because it gives a lot of people opportunities to get themselves on TV and sort of get that level of exposure. But I think they could do a much better job of sort of explaining the backstory. Like there's certain people that appear on AEW television on a semi-regular basis, but I don't think that they're signed to like a full-time contract where they're actually on the AEW roster page online. And I think that, it's kind of like there's an expectation that we know who these people are, or
there's an expectation to AEW fans, because even when I don't know, because I didn't watch them. I'm an AEW fan. I'm wearing an FTR shirt as we speak, right? Like I'm an AEW
Love
fan.
that for you.
I'm a loyal AEW fan. But I don't go there and watch the Road 2s every month and every week.
Right.
Like if you did a whole thing on Tanahashi or Will Ospreay on the Road 2, but you didn't put it on your weekly television show, that doesn't mean I saw it. And I'm a hardcore wrestling fan to an extent, right? Yes. I don't watch Dark every week. Like I watch it sometimes and I don't watch it sometimes. And just because someone's picking up all these wins and stuff on Dark, that doesn't, I watch what you guys put on TV, because as someone that grew up in the 90s, That's my mindset. What's on TV
Right.
is the main shows. You have Dynamite's your Raw, Rampage your SmackDown, or you say Nitro Thunder, whatever you want. That's how my
Right.
brain was built in growing up in North America watching wrestling. So if you're doing all this other stuff, like, don't be wrong, I do watch Dark sometimes. I do watch your Road to sometimes. But to say that fans need to watch this stuff to understand what's happening on your show or to understand who these people are, like, that's not, you should put it on the show. Cut one of your matches short. You have too many matches sometimes anyways. Teach us who these people are. I think a lot of people would have been more intrigued by Forbidden Door if they got to understand who these people were a lot more.
I agree with that. I think that there's some level of expectation that people know who the New Japan guys are, that people know who, what storylines.
Some people didn't even know. I had friends that didn't even know who Will Ospreay was. They're like, who's this guy? Why is this such a big deal?
Yeah, I mean, I can understand just because he's someone who's not regularly on.
Never wrestled on the North American scene in any of the major companies. It's hard for someone to understand who that is right away. Does that make? I think that's what they understand. Like, not everybody's in there watching New Japan Pro Wrestling, and it's
I agree with that. And I think Will Ospreay, he's a big enough name where I think there are.
But he's a big enough name towards wrestling fans. That's the bubble that we get trapped in because we're wrestling fans talking about wrestling. Right. So like, oh, he's a big enough name, but I'm like, okay, but I even have to step in a moment. She's like, okay, so if someone doesn't watch wrestling like I do, they wouldn't know Will Ospreay.
Right. I think that for the bubble of wrestling fans, something like that is very exciting. But I think that they need to incorporate either more video packages or even just like a little bit more explanation on commentary sometimes. Like, I think, even on commentary, it'll be like a quick comment of like, oh, this is so-and-so. And like, we should be excited about them because, but
I did really appreciate how they had Kevin Kelly on commentary for Forbidden Door and a lot of guys that have commentated for New Japan in the past, because that was really helpful.
That was very helpful. I think feeling like it wasn't like so heavily leaning towards the AEW side where we didn't have the resources to kind of explain, like you said, to the more casual fan, the background of the New Japan performers. I'm glad that they kind of gave them, seemingly their fair share of the production aspect of as well, because like we were just saying, we need more of that explanation, and so at least if they're bringing in people that can provide that, they can kind of jump in and help, maybe more than just like the standard AEW crew would be able to.
I'm with you. But shout out to FTR. They won the IWGP Tag Team titles, so they're now the Ring of Honor champions, the IWGP Tag Team champions, and the AAA champions. I think everyone knows the writing's on the wall. They need them against the Young Bucks for the winner takes all, and hopefully FTR wins all the belts. What'd you say?
I hope so. I believe it was actually Dax's birthday the other day, so also shout out to him.
Happy birthday, Dax. Happy Canada Day, everybody celebrating, and happy early birthday to Bret Hart tomorrow. Yes. Happy birthday to Terry Funk. Happy birthday to Cody Rhodes. It was Cody Rhodes' birthday yesterday. But I wrote a really nice caption for Dax because I really appreciate him a lot. But happy for FTR, man. 7 stars. They won 7 different World Tag Team titles. They're gonna probably win those AEW tag titles for a second time. I want them to beat the Young Bucks in the rubber match. They're 1-1 right now, and I was just happy for them. The pop they've been getting, the way that they're over with the fans right now, like they deserve all of this, and I'm all for it. Are you gonna say something?
I am too. I was gonna bring up the match, the first match that they had. I believe it was at Full Gear, and it was still during the pandemic where there were not fans present with the Young Bucks, and that was a fantastic match. I was so excited about that match. It was a little disappointing that they had to do it not in front of a live audience, and I'm really excited to see a part 2 of that does get to be in front of a live audience, because I think they were kind of put in a little bit of a tough spot with that match.
Well, they had the part 2. They had a second match. They had the second match on Dynamite, and now it's 1-on-1 because now FTR has beat the Young Bucks. Yeah, so the FTR has beat Young Bucks once, and the Young Bucks have beat FTR once. So that's why this third match would be the one where someone's up on the other, but now all the belts can be on the line. What did you watch?
So I'm looking forward to the next pay-per-view that they're able to do that match in front of a live audience, because I feel like the first time that they did it a couple years ago, I feel like they were kind of in this tough spot of like, there's been so much anticipation, there's been so much long awaited talk leading up to this match, and I feel like they were kind of like, okay, either we do it now, or like, and not in front of fans, or God knows when we're going to be able to do it. So I feel like they kind of had to make a choice and just like pull the trigger on it then. And I absolutely loved it. It was phenomenal, but I'm excited to see like the next big build up with all of the golds on the line on pay-per-view in front of a full arena.
It's going to be insane. Huge shout out to Pac, who won the All-Atlantic Championship at the Forbidden Door pay-per-view. I thought that match was great, too. I think Clark Connors played a really funny role there as the guy that kept getting tossed out of the ring and trying to get in there with these three behemoths, but just couldn't, because he was like a replacement for Ishii. But he played his role well.
And
obviously, I'm a big Malachi fan. Miro was on fire. It almost seemed a few times like Miro was going to win this. Either three of those, and I said this before, either three of those guys could have won, I would have been happy. Whether it was Miro, Black, or Pac, but I'm happy it was Pac. It was a good match.
I would have been too. I would have been happy with any of them. I was really glad to see Miro back. And I was glad to see that he was so on fire during that match, because I feel like the AEW roster has gotten so stacked with people that it's just inevitably hard when you have that many big names. It's hard to give everybody their time, and it's hard to have everybody be a star at the same time. So I was hoping that he would get more time to shine, and I was glad that he did. But I was glad that Pac won, because I also feel like he's someone who's been around in AEW since the beginning. Exactly. And I feel like he's had so many he's someone who's very strong in the ring technically, and I feel like he's been a part of so many incredible matches.
He has. He's also one of those guys that, like, if they didn't keep signing more guys, like, he could have been AEW champion. But I feel like they've signed so many big names and people that not the stock is fallen, but it's like, so like I like the fact that they introduced a new title. I'm not against it. I don't think they should introduce many more, but I think it gives there's a lot of talent in this company, a lot of male talent in this company, and I think this is I'm just glad he has a belt, and it's Pac's belt at this point now, and now it's who takes it off him. The same way the TBS title feels like it's Jade's belt. It's the same kind of vibe. And they planted seeds for Miro and Malachi, which I'm excited for. If that's
I'm excited about that too. I really like what they're doing with House of Black in general as well. And I think that was also on Double or Nothing. The match that they were involved with was another one that I feel like sort of got mixed reviews, just in the sense that I think people enjoyed it, but they felt like it was something that could have just been on Dynamite as opposed to being on the pay-per-view. I personally really enjoyed it on the pay-per-view, but I like how they incorporated Julia Hart. I think that they could have done a better job sort of explaining that again on the main show a little bit better, because I feel like they did a lot of like slow burn stuff a little bit more behind the scenes, where if you weren't following it super closely, it might not really resonate with you fully to the extent that it could have. But I like the combination of guys that they have. I love their entrance. I like the whole general vibe that they have, and
I'm a fan.
I'm a fan. I think that they could really be something. I was reading an article that Fightful actually had posted several weeks ago about, House of Black kind of saying, like, we really want to be the next big thing in wrestling. We could be the next big thing. And I was like, I agree with that. I think that if AEW plays their cards right with them, I think it's kind of like the Dark Order, where at first I wasn't really 100% sure about them. But then when they kind of pulled in the right people and started getting into the right stories, they started to get over on me.
Give me the House of, I don't know what Jericho guys are going to do next, but give me the House of Black versus the Blackpool Combat Club. Put them against each other.
I would love that.
Claudio versus Malachi, or Buddy versus, Moxley. Just give me a mix of that stuff. I thought the Dudes with Attitude versus the Bullet Club was fun. It was nice to see the Young Bucks back in the Bullet Club gear and the music. It was cool to see LP get that shine. I'm a big El Phantasmo fan. We go way back. He wrestled here in the Pacific Northwest. Always treats me like a friend when I see him. We've had heart-to-heart conversations. He's beat me up in the ring before. I went to go interview him. I went to go interview him at a training session when they're training students. And he's like, "Oh, Justin, hop in the ring, help us." He's like, "Okay." He's like, "You're gonna ref the counts. I'm gonna have these guys do a drill where they come down, they go to the count. You're gonna drop down, do 1, 2, and then they're gonna kick out. We're gonna do this over and over again." And but he's like, "I had to break you in first." So he started like making me take bumps and like stomped me in the corner and did all this stuff. And I always think that's so funny. And then I have to help him out. And then we did an interview in the middle of the ring. But I'm a big LP supporter. We go way back. It was good to see him get the shine at Forbidden Door and teaming with the Young Bucks and working with Sting and, you know, doing the stuff with Darby. And
what did you think of Sting's entrance into the match?
Oh, I loved it. It was something creative. I think the thing with Sting is because he's such a like nostalgia novelty act at this point. You don't want to see him do too much, right?
Exactly.
Giving him that one spot on the pay-per-view to jump off something's cool. I'm with it. I'll roll with it.
I agree. I think they've been very smart actually about the way that they've been utilizing Sting because, well, that for me, that was cool because I was like, this man is 62 years old.
Yeah.
And like, look at what he's still doing. He looks great, but I think it's good. They're not overdoing it. They're not making him do too much where they're exposing his age. They're letting him do just enough where we get our nostalgic Sting moments, and I think that it's smart of them, and they've done this with other guys as well, where they take someone who's more of a vet, more of an established person, and pairing them with the younger talent to kind of elevate the younger guys, like the pairing of Sting and Darby together.
It's great.
I think it's really smart. I feel like they did that with Jericho and Sammy, Matt Hardy and Private Party, and I think that it's a win-win for everybody because it kind of lets the vet get their TV time, get their stuff in, but then also gives them an opportunity to step back when they need to and sort of like let the younger guys break out and do their stuff.
Also, huge shout out to Claudio, who made his debut on Forbidden Door. I think everyone kind of predicted.
Yes.
Formerly known as Cesaro. Great match with Zack Sabre Jr. Followed up by a great matchup in Blood and Guts, but I was happy to see Claudio. I still think that, once again, AEW needs to stop signing more men, but I can't be mad about it. I don't know. We've spent so many years of having Cesaro in the WWE and being like, oh, we wish he was doing more and we wish he was doing more, which is crazy because in the last couple of years, we've had Cesaro get some crazy opportunities like beating Seth at WrestleMania in a singles match and having the championship match with Roman Reigns. It's like he just finally started getting some opportunities, but I think he came to the realization that like, oh, they're never really gonna put me on the top of that mountain. And
I think so too. And I think that with the opportunities that he has gotten in WWE, I saw a headline this week that said now that Claudio is in AEW, he was like, I feel like a kid in a candy store with like all these new opportunities. I think that with everything that he's done in WWE, there's not a lot more that I personally can think of where I'm like, in terms of like fresh matchups or stories or things of that nature, where I'm like, you know what, like he hasn't done that yet. I don't know that there's a lot in WWE that he hasn't already done to some degree that would really be like super fresh and new for him. Whereas I feel like this kind of gives him an opportunity to sort of, maybe explore a different side of his character and have a little bit more of a
freedom.
say. Yeah, a little more.
They barely let him talk in WWE. He had to play a specific role. I think he hasn't. It's been a long time since Claudio's had like the handcuffs off him to be free to try to create his own identity. I think for a lot of years WWE is creating his identity, and before coming to WWE, like he was on the independents. He was killing it. Him and Chris Hero as a tag team as the Kings of Wrestling and all the stuff he did, but he didn't really have even an identity then. I think now like. He knows who he is. He's Chris. We see a lot of the Cesaro things like the swing and the neutralizers and the uppercuts. Like he brought that with him, but it's just I think he has the opportunity. There is the opportunity here for him to be like a top level guy.
I think so too.
For him there, And
I think that there's a couple other guys that came over to AEW from WWE that were kind of in the same boat where I mean, obviously, WWE played a massive role in making them who they are today. I mean, they wouldn't be where they are today if it weren't for WWE, realistically. So it's not to knock WWE, but it's just kind of to say, you know, they have kind of done everything that there really is to do
I
there.
mean, there's only so many top spots, and the fact, and this is not to knock WWE, but the fact that like we're getting Brock and Roman again tells you that they don't like. Yes, maybe Cesaro did get a title shot. Then that they know who their top guys are, and they're not going to push anybody new. They're not in the business. It doesn't seem like I'm making new stars. I could be wrong. Someone can come in here and argue like, no, what about Riddle and this? And I'm like, okay, yeah, maybe, but it's just Riddle have a glass ceiling too. Like, where's the glass ceiling for these guys? Because they push a lot of people and they hit a glass ceiling. And it's been the Roman project since 2014. It's not like that's as much as we're enjoying it right now, or some people it is getting stale, but as much as it's cool right now, like don't forget that it's been the Roman project since 2014. Like they pick their guy and they go with it. There's less opportunity. Once they label you as a person or a good hand or someone that's in a certain position, you could be stuck. Look at Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah.
He's the man.
And I think also when it comes to like the main event scene in WWE, like you said, it's kind of the same handful of people that I feel like we see, like Roman, Brock, Bobby Lashley. It's like the same group of big Drew McIntyre sometimes. It's like the same group of big guys, right? And I feel like the way that they book main events also is generally very similar, where it's like they come out, they do their finishing moves on each other for 10 minutes until someone dies, and then it's kind of just like it is what it is. And it doesn't necessarily like need to be anything more than that, but it's not necessarily like pulling me in really deeply from like a storytelling aspect, because I feel like it's kind of the same thing. It's like the big guys coming out and doing all of their big moves until eventually someone, something happens, someone gets the pinfall. And not to say that that's not good sometimes, but I feel like I'm almost a little bit more emotionally invested in the guys that are kind of like the upper mid card, like the Matt Riddle and, that sort of level where I feel like there's a little bit more going on from a storytelling standpoint, and they're doing a little bit more.
AEW too, like if you are in that upper mid card, whether it's a TNT title and the All Atlantic title, there doesn't seem to be that much space between that and being on the top of the card. The world title picture. Whereas with WWE, there does seem to be like a big gap between being the Intercontinental US champion and then being the world champion. Like there's a big separation. They care about that top way more than they do about anything under, to be honest. Especially in the last few years. And I think that's where it's like, even if you're not the top guy, you don't need a belt to be a top guy in AEW.
Yeah.
That's just the fact of the matter.
I think so too. And the other thing, and you kind of touched on this as well, is for some guys in WWE, I feel like there's guys that do really well, especially in like the old NXT and the black and gold NXT. I feel like there were some guys that I was so invested in there. And like, for example, Tommaso Ciampa and Ricochet, Johnny Gargano. There were a lot of people that I really fell in love with there. And then I feel like when some of these people, Karrion Kross I thought he was going to be huge in WWE. Like I thought he had so much potential to be huge in WWE. But it's just like a lot of these people, when they get pulled up to the main roster, I'm like, what's going on? Like, why are they not turning into, they're kind of becoming stars to some degree, but I just feel like no one's really growing to that like upper echelon.
You think someone's gonna come from NXT and they're gonna get like the top star in NXT and they have this big rub? Like, look what Ciampa's doing.
Yeah, and I remember
it's the Roman show. It literally is. It's Roman Reigns, maybe Brock Lesnar. Then you got this tier of like Bobby Lashley, Seth, etc. And then there's just everybody else. Like that's just the way it is.
and it's weird. It's weird to me because the storytelling that they did in NXT, the matches that they did with Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano, that whole storyline with DIY breaking up, and they had like their trilogy of big matches and getting back together. Like that was very emotionally involved for me. And so
I just got a DM from Ron Killings. I think he wants me to promote his music. Shout out to our truth. But go on.
Okay.
That's what I just opened. I'm like, why did Wrong Killings DM me? And there's this a reel here, and I'm like, oh, I guess he wants me to share his reel. I guess he's got like the word in the back. They're like, oh, the Wrestling Classic's a good guy. Like he'll share your stuff, and now he's like sending me stuff.
That's great.
Okay, shout out Ron Killings. This show is definitely gonna go over an hour. We haven't even finished talking about Forbidden Door.
I was so like, it's already.
Yeah, it was only supposed to be an hour long, but that's okay.
Oh my goodness.
Huh?
I was just looking at the timestamp and I was like,
yeah. So that's why I was a little like stressed out because I'm like, oh man, like I was trying to keep this under an hour, but we're gonna go over an hour. I'm gonna have to send Dash something else. Maybe I'll send him part of this. I don't know. But Daniel will join us for the second half where we talk about WWE because there's still a lot to talk about, Julie. We still got to talk about Logan Paul signing. We got to talk about John Cena's 20th anniversary. We got to talk about Money in the Bank prediction. And we spent 40 minutes talking about Forbidden Door, which was supposed to be a quick recap here, but clearly it was not a quick recap.
Clearly we had a lot to talk about.
I know, and usually, to be honest, like I said before we started talking about it, I usually would have done a post show for the pay-per-view, so we wouldn't have to talk about it on this show, but I did not do that this week because I've been very busy. But I guess there's a couple more Forbidden Door things we could talk about, and then we'll move on to WWE. First things first, Jon Moxley is now the interim champion. Obviously, there was a part of me that wanted Tanahashi to win the week's going up to, because I'm like, I still want Tanahashi versus CM Punk, but I'm sure we'll get a Forbidden Door too. And then I thought about it too. I'm like, well, Tanahashi's probably going to go back to Japan, so it only makes sense that Moxley would win the belt. Right. And Mox versus Punk will be fun too. And I'm cool with it. I'm good with it. I like
too. It was definitely, yeah. I feel like like the way that things have unfolded, I feel like I am satisfied. It was actually quite a bit different than I think I would have originally hoped for. Like when they originally announced that they were doing a battle royal, and then Kyle O'Reilly won the battle royal, like it kind of went in a different direction than I might have pictured it myself. I was saying a couple weeks ago, again, it's hard to know what's really like going on backstage behind the scenes in AEW right now, but I was like, we need to get the belt on MJF as soon as possible. I was like, MJF is red hot right now. I was like, he needs to come in, he needs to win the battle royal. I was like, we need to get him at the top while he's on this like
where is he? When is he coming back? Because we need that guy dropped how of a promo and they just dipped.
Well, that was I feel like it was like a shoot that turned into a work that almost maybe turned back into a shoot, because it sounds like the network wasn't happy with certain aspects of the promo.
Oh wow.
I was really hoping that after that promo that they were going to run with that as a story, and I was hoping that he was going to steal the battle royal somehow and that they were going to elevate him to the title picture, because I think he's long been ready to be in the title picture. Even we haven't
seen him get a title shot besides that one time against Moxley. And what happened? Yeah. Moxley wasn't supposed to hit the dirty deeds, and Moxley illegally hit the dirty. Oh, I guess it's not the dirty deeds anymore. The paradigm shift. He wasn't supposed to hit the paradigm shift, and he illegally hit the paradigm shift on
which was a fun.
It was a great match, but the point is that Moxley never beat MJF.
Right, and that was a fun way
the rules to beat MJF.
It was a fun way to keep the belt on Moxley without making MJF look weak, I think, because of the fact that he wasn't supposed to hit the paradigm shift and he did it under the radar. I think that was a smart way of doing it, but I was really hoping that they would bring him back into that picture right away, now that like there's been so much talk about him. I think the weekend actually that I did the Double or Nothing post show, there was a lot of viewership that weekend, and a lot of it had to do with the fact that, you know, there were reports swirling about MJF having this plane ticket out of Vegas. I remember SRS did a really late night show the night before Double or Nothing, reporting on that, and it had a lot of viewership despite being pretty late at night on the East Coast. And then when we reported
well, it was
the
hot
next
news.
day,
Everyone wanted to know if he was going to show up or not to fight Wardlow. It was a big
yeah.
deal.
And then I actually think the next day when we did our post-show review, we got a lot of viewership for that as well. And I think a lot of it just had to do with the amount of crazy wrestling news that was going on that weekend. But I was excited when I saw that they were going to kind of seemingly capitalize on everything that was going on and turn it into a work. But now, we haven't seen anything more come of that. So it's like we're all kind of curious to know what's going to happen next. But I guess long story short, that was kind of where I was hoping it was going. But I'm happy ultimately with the way that things went. I think it's good for Mox, and I think that there's a lot of fun matches that can come down the line from it. So I was overall pleased with what they did.
Same here, and I think he fits as champion. Him with the belt, it's familiar. We've been here, we've done it. It's not something we're like, oh, Moxie's the champion. How did this happen?
Right.
It's weird because is he gonna have title defenses till Punk comes back? I guess so. And then if anyone beats him for it, then I guess they would fight Punk. But it's just I'm not a huge fan of the whole interim champion thing. I get it though.
Yeah,
I would have just liked Mox to be the new champion, and if Punk was out, and then Punk would have to come back and get a title shot or something,
Right. And I think the whole interim champion concept to me is a little weird because I think that initially they sort of came up with it on the fly back when Cody was out and he was the TNT champion. They sort of just and then they were doing what was the show that they were doing where all the championships were being defended back
Battle of the Belts.
Battle of the Belts back in January. And so I think they kind of needed to throw something together for that quickly. But they never really explained the significance. What does being an interim champion mean? They kind of just threw the term out there. And I feel like it was never really well explained as to
it's just weird because you're not the champion, but you're the champion, but that guy's still the champion. So when that guy comes back, it worked. I think if you did it once, right? And you did it once, the TNT championship, I think that worked because it's something you do every once in a while. You know what I mean? You do it every once in a while, and then I think everybody immediately will well, it's Sammy and Cody, so they'll probably have a ladder match. But with this, it's well, didn't we just do this and now we're doing it again? It's okay to say, hey, Punk, we're gonna strip you of the belt. But don't get me wrong, the moment you get back, you're the first person to get a title shot. That's already given, that's a guarantee for you. That's a different story then.
And I think it also yes. And I think it also depends too, in Cody's situation. I mean, at that point, there was the speculation of, is he going to go to WWE? But at that point, from what we knew definitively, he was only going to be out for a short period of time. Whereas with CM Punk, this is more of a long-term injury. So I think you kind of need to base it off of that as well. Interim kind of makes sense if it is a really short-term thing, but if it's going to be several months, you might just need to strip them of the belts, unfortunately.
So 2 more AEW questions, and we're going to jump to WWE, and then we're going to let Daniel up on here for the WWE portion of the show. Awesome. That's done with Forbidden Door. Good pay-per-view. That was supposed to be a 10-minute, 15-minute review. We did a whole hour of Forbidden Door. I apologize. It's going to be a long TWC show, guys. This is Julie's first time. I didn't really give her the rules. We just kind of went with it.
We just kind of went.
That's kind of my fault. But Blood and Guts. What do you think about this year's Blood and Guts match between Jericho's Appreciation Society and the Blackpool Combat Club? Obviously, it was Claudio. I want to say Cesaro. It was Claudio replacing Brian, who's obviously hurt, as we talked about earlier with all the injuries. Did you enjoy the match? I thought I enjoyed it. I don't know. Was there a lot of people in it? Was there way too many people in the match, or am I just tripping?
I think it's kind of a delicate balance. I actually felt the same way about Anarchy in the Arena a little bit. I think that, production sort of does their best in these sorts of situations to kind of follow everything that's going on. And I give them major props for that because that could not be an easy job, especially trying to do that in real time without missing anything important. I think for me, with the Jericho Appreciation Society, it was they added Sammy back in, which I think makes sense with Sammy as a
It's
heel.
Also weird having it makes sense that Sammy's with Jericho still because he never really betrayed Jericho or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I feel like Sammy being back in there makes Garcia's role seem a little less
significant.
Yeah, because Sammy's a big presence as the young kid in the group. But then before Sammy came back in, Garcia was like the young kid in the group.
Yeah, and I also think I have kind of mixed feelings about it because I think it makes sense, and I love Jericho and Sammy together, so like it's kind of fun being like, oh, like the gang's back together, and then
100%.
Of course now Ty being with Sammy, she kind of gets pulled into the group too. But I agree with what you're saying. It starts to get a little bit overwhelming when there's so many people, and I also feel like, you know, part of the initial purpose for me of pairing Sammy with Chris Jericho was kind of to elevate Sammy as a character, being someone that when he first started out in AEW, a lot of people didn't know, and he was coming from having a totally different gimmick where he was coming out to the ring in the panda head and everything. I think that Jericho really helped to shape him into and
Jericho fully took Sammy under his wing and
I think that he helped Sammy realize the potential of what he really could be. And sort of leaning into like just being ridiculous and silly and just not caring about anything and rolling with that. And so I almost don't know if he needed to go back with Chris Jericho, because I feel like now he's gotten over enough on his own where he and Ty could just kind of do their own heel work, and they don't necessarily need to be in a big group.
No, I'm with you. Like him and Sammy can split off. If they needed Sammy for Blood and Guts, cool. But now Sammy can split off and do his own thing again. And that's a beautiful thing about Sammy is he's done that a lot of time. Even when he's in the inner circle, he'd split off and do his own thing. And then he would always be there when they needed to do inner circle work. Because I do think that he's Jericho's boy that Jericho can call when he needs him. And that's the way it should be. Like Jericho's like, we need someone else. Don't worry, we got Sammy. Like, you know, like whereas like I don't want Sammy hanging out with 2.0 and Daniel Garcia throwing fireballs in people's faces. Keep them separate. But like like if you needed to bring Sammy in, like we got a secret weapon. It's Sammy Guevara. Dope. But now let Sammy go do his own thing again with Ty. Let Jericho Appreciation Society keep doing their thing. And Sammy was like a guest appearance as a guest teammate with his old friend Chris Jericho. You know what I mean? Like, does that make sense?
I agree. I think the other thing for me is like the inner circle was kind of their own group, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like I have such fond memories of Sammy being a part of that I don't want to see him in like a second iteration of the group that I don't quite enjoy as much. Like I don't really think it's necessary. I think that like once he left and once Ortiz and Santana, I don't know why his name was escaping me. Once they kind of broke off from the group, I feel like they're all like over enough on their own and established enough on their own where they kind of got what they needed from it.
I initially kind of wanted I don't know why I always thought the man like it'd be cool if Santana, Ortiz, and Sammy broke off into their own little group,
their own faction.
Like just the three of them. I was game with that, and even if Eddie Kingston led it, I just thought their own little Latino little faction. I'm like that would have been dope, but that wasn't.
I agree.
Sammy was doing his own thing, but hopefully Santana's all right. He got injured in the match early on and was taken out. I thought it was a good match. Obviously, they built the tension between Kingston and Cesaro. Cesaro picked up the win when Kingston was almost about to pick up the win. I was like, what the hell, dude? And it was good overall. I just kind of I wish I don't know. I enjoyed it. It just seemed like you know what the thing about I'm gonna say, and I think I said the same thing about the first Blood and Guts match. So I think I just feel this way. I get why they do it on Dynamite and why it's like a Dynamite thing now. They need to do it on pay-per-view. I don't like commercial breaks during these matches.
I agree, especially because there's, like we said, there's already so much going on. Production's already trying to keep up with so much that when you throw a commercial break into the mix, it's like you could have missed 10 things.
Yeah, and I'm a big, like, I don't like commercial breaks during matches. Like, I get it that they have to do it sometimes, but I'm like, in today's generation where we have cell phones and like all this, like you go to commercial, I'm distracted. Then you come back and I'm like, oh crap, you're back. You know what I mean? Like I probably already missed like 5 minutes of stuff that happened because I was finishing a conversation with someone or doing something. Blood and Guts needs to be on pay-per-view. I feel like the next Blood and Guts a match either needs to be on pay-per-view or Tony needs to work some deal where it's like, hey, can we just have it commercial free for this one match or an hour of commercial free? We'll plug extra commercials in the first hour or something like. And I'm game. I'm not a big fan of that.
Yeah, and the other thing that I feel is that I feel like they built up Blood and Guts for so long that it just seemed a little bit underwhelming for
what
them.
happened right after the pay-per-view too, like literally right after a pay-per-view. It's Blood and Guts.
Also, yeah, are we able to pause for a second?
Yeah, pause. What's going on?
I probably need to get off soon.
Okay. Yeah.
I know you mentioned bringing in.
I'm gonna let him take over then.
Okay, I was gonna say I know that we're not live right now, so I was about to type in the chat, and then I was like,
let's talk. That's where we go live. I should have told you I do try to keep it under an hour because I have to send it to Dash, and they only like it for an hour, but that's okay.
My nephew just came in the room, so
that's okay. Okay, that's okay. If you need to dip right now, you can dip right now, and then I will switch it over. You want to do that? Okay.
That sounds good if you're able to do that.
Yeah, do that. If you want to dip right now, you can dip right now. I'll switch it over. Cool?
Okay. Thank you so much. Are we we should definitely do this
again.
At some point.
We will. We'll do it the next time. Yeah, the next time I do like a recap for a pay-per-view, I'll just have you on for the recap right away. Because this was basically a Forbidden Door recap that me and you just did. But
yeah. Thank you so much.
No problem. Okay.
Okay. You say bye, James.
Bye.
What the hell just happened?
And we are here with Daniel.
Yeah.
Julie had to kick it in the spawn of the moment, so you're gonna hear like some technical difficulty sound, and then coming back to me and Daniel. Guys, that went longer than an hour. We were supposed to just talk about Forbidden Door and give our overall thoughts, and it ended up being an hour recap of Forbidden Door and AEW, which is perfect though, because you didn't watch any AEW in the past.
I don't watch that stuff. I only watch entertainment, brother.
So we're gonna talk about entertainment, brother.
So I'm here.
Let's talk about it. We're gonna make Money in the Bank predictions. We'll leave that to last. Let's talk about two things first.
Let's get to it.
First thing, 20 years of John Cena happened.
Oh,
okay. I didn't hate it. What I did hate was the amount of video packages and propaganda we got. All the shout outs. It was really cool to see Big Show, Brian, Jericho.
You popped for your boy, Big Show.
Who else was there? I popped hard
Jericho.
for Big Show. Who else? Jericho, Brian, and someone else. Brian. Big Show and I felt like there was someone else. But I don't know. The Forbidden Door was still open. They got to give shout outs to WWE for John Cena. It was hard for me just not to sit there and be like, wow, they're doing a lot for John Cena. Why didn't they do more for Randy Orton? That's my only beef.
Yeah. I mean, that just kind of puts into perspective on, like, you know, if John's your company boy, then obviously you're going to ride out for him harder than anybody. But I get it. Randy's your boy too, but I mean, I get it, man.
But also, Orton feel like in the company, I feel like with Cena, they see a bigger long-term investment in Cena as he's popping off in different ventures in Hollywood and whatnot. They almost kind of probably see Cena like, listen, Austin's Austin. He's that WWE guy. He's that WWE guy. But then Cena's The Rock. And The Rock's The Rock having ties to WWE for his entire life will always make WWE seem like a bigger deal. If Cena pops off the same way The Rock's popping off, which he is, he's doing really well in Hollywood and stuff. Peacemaker's a fucking hit. I actually really enjoyed the show. Once again, for all you people out there that don't get it, I don't dislike John Cena the human. I hate the fucking character to death.
You know what I like though? I liked how they started the show off with them, like just like going around and stuff and like messing around with other people's characters and stuff. Like how is Cena come into play with like a Becky Lynch, and you see he just ignored Becky, and that was a callback to 2018 when Becky like mocked Cena with "You Can't See Me," and then I liked how Dolph and Cena embraced because they had a great rivalry. And shout out to the 2014 Survivor Series where Ziggler was the sole survivor. And there's so many stuff, Rey Mysterio and John embracing. There's so many cool gems in there. Drake Maverick's in the company, apparently. I had no idea.
He's a writer. He works in the creative team.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. But it was good. I didn't like how every person's promo was based around John Cena. And, like, for example, Liv Morgan, it made me cringe a little bit. She's like, this upcoming Saturday is Money in the Bank, and John Cena told me to never give up and all that. And I'm like, I don't know.
It was too much propaganda. It was too ass kissy to John Cena.
I don't know if I want to use that word.
No, it was way too ass kissy to John Cena. I don't what Cena did was good. His promo was good. I kept thinking Austin Theory is gonna run out there, attack him, even at the ramp or something. But overall, like, I can't. When he cut his promo, I was like, because I don't like John Cena promos. Like, that's well established. I think his promos are the same all the time. He talks slow. He makes a couple of jokes. He starts yelling about passion and what he's done, and then comes back low again and gets all serious. Like, it's the same promo. This wasn't that. This was John Anthony Felix Cena. This was the John Cena talking, the human, not John Cena the character talking. Does that make sense? A lot of the stuff he did backstage in the segments was John Cena the character. The stuff with the Street Profits and Ezekiel and all that was John Cena the character. Funny. But that promo in the ring was just like, it was just John.
Yeah.
Saying thank you and I appreciate it. And it was like very genuine.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Cool. It was cool.
So I did appreciate and you know what? I like his hat. I really do like that hat.
I like the color scheme. It's black. I like that black one.
I'm not saying I'm like one of those fat wrestling marks that just likes black t-shirts. Wearing a black t-shirt, but more the fact that I didn't like his multiple colors that he was doing all the years. And honestly, the colors he did in the last couple of years, like the
I didn't like the green. I didn't like the green.
The purple was trash.
I didn't mind the red. I like the red.
Yeah, I didn't mind the red.
I like the red for some reason. I was like,
I never minded him rocking the white, like the champ is here stuff.
Do you remember
white,
the blue?
Red, black? But like when you got too Fruity Pebble-ish, it was too much for me.
I remember the blue in 2009. But yeah, anyways.
I don't remember the blue in 2009.
That's when he won the world title with Big Show and against Ajin Big Show at WrestleMania 25.
It blocked up time in my memory.
Probably did.
Beat the Big Show? Are you kidding me? It was cool, man. It was cool. I know a lot of people are like, it was really lame to see like all the entire roster out there clapping their hands for when he was coming out and stuff. I get that. It's one thing if he was retiring. It's a thing that he's gonna be back. If he was gonna retire, then I understand the big hurrah with everybody. But if he's gonna come back, it's kind of cheesy. So he's gonna come back and the Miz and talk shit to him again. But we're supposed to believe like they were best friends when he came back this time. Like, you know what I mean? It's kind of contradicting.
I get it.
But I didn't hate it. It was definitely, they needed that though. Because I was watching the episode of Raw and I realized, I'm like, oh, everything else on this is pretty trash.
No, I think the Battle Royal was pretty decent.
I mean, it's a Battle Royal. Those are always fun. When has
there never
been a fun Battle Royal?
That's what I'm saying. When was the last time we ever actually had a good Battle Royal? I don't remember. This Battle Royal was Matt Riddle.
Oh, yeah. See, I caught it from the middle, so I didn't watch it from the beginning.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
So I didn't even see like the whole scene. Like, I went back and watched it, but that scene with Cena walks in and stuff, like I missed all that. I don't know what I was doing, but definitely missed it. But he said he doesn't know when he's gonna be back, but he'll definitely be back, and it'll be more than one match. I think Austin Theory versus Cena at SummerSlam still like what we all think is gonna happen. They had their interaction backstage. I said this to you guys. I think I said it in the Discord, but I know it's so out of character, but I want Cena to beat Theory at SummerSlam. I just think it gives us the opportunity to have a longer story to tell because you let Cena beat Theory at SummerSlam, and we know Cena doesn't have like the best track record at SummerSlam, so it'd be pretty cool. And then
he beat Baron Corbin.
Let Cena. I said Cena, like Theory and Cena together. I get Cena. Let's get Cena get his win at SummerSlam. Let Theory beat Cena at WrestleMania next year. Like that's what I think would be the best.
Yeah, I'd be cool with that. That makes sense.
Your boy Logan Paul has signed with the
Bro, let's go. I'm not the biggest like Logan Paul fan, whatever you want to call it, but like, dude, I enjoy this man's like vibe. He is so charismatic, when it comes to just talking and like getting people engaged. I would say I wasn't the biggest Logan fan until like his podcast came out, and Paul said go check that out. But Yeah, I think he is someone who gets the business in a sense where he knows how to get heat. You know, you look back, you look at Andy Kaufman. This man knew how to get heat. You know what I mean? So it was one of those things where he gets signed. People are already talking about him. Oh, why Logan Paul? Why this and why? Dude, trust me. We've seen him at WrestleMania. It was just a glimpse of what he can do, and I know he can go out there and entertain, and that's all that matters. Because again, at the end of the day, you want to talk about taking spots from younger people and all that, dude. He went on to Impulsive. I think it was with Sasha or Becky or whatever, and he was like, I think this is my true calling, and it was right after a WrestleMania match, and he talks about how he always felt like he was always jumping off stuff. When kids are getting, watching wrestling, they want to like, emulate it in a way, right? They want to copy what's happening on TV, and he would do that. And he was like, that's his true calling and everything. So it's cool to see everything come to full circle. And I'm assuming this is like a part-time. He's not going to be on every show, every live event. Like this is very.
I think it's a few shows a year. I think
few shows a year. Saudi shows.
Right. He's still doing his own thing. He's not going to stop doing his own thing. I like him. I'm not a Logan. I'm not a Paul fan. Paul Brothers fan whatsoever. In the sense of like, I never really watched their content. I never really watched their YouTube videos. I couldn't even name you like the vlogs. I got a shitload of vlogs. I can't name you 5 of the videos. I've heard of the controversies. I've watched some of the boxing matches.
Let me just say this one thing.
I listen and post it when they have guests that I'm into and stuff. I think, and it's the same thing I used to say. I forget who I used to say it about. I don't need to like them to indulge in their content for me to appreciate their hustle. And they fucking hustle, and they built a name for themselves, and they created something through that a lot of people, whether you want to admit it or not, are trying to implement. You all want to be influencers or YouTubers and get that sort of popularity and fame, and that's what the Paul brothers did. They did that. And I was saying this to Daniel yesterday. I've said this to others in the past, where I'm like, I've seen Logan do interviews. I've obviously watched him on his own shows. I've watched, like I said, I've seen some of his shit from back in the day. I'm never gonna say I'm gonna watch it. He's grown up. He's matured. There's a level of professionalism with him. Even when you see him and his brother in the same show, like I remember watching some of those boxing events where they'd box people, and I'm like, there's Jake, who obviously seems to have this big ego, a little bit of a wild child, a little crazy. You can't trust what he's gonna say, a little bit of a loose cannon. And then there's Logan, well, there's something about Logan that comes off like, oh, this guy's like, you can tell, one, he's the older brother. He's a little bit more mature. He's probably better at having business conversations and professional conversations with people, better head on his shoulders. And he just I feel like he just fits that environment, and he brings all that name, presence, and popularity with him. There's a shit ton of Logan Paul fans out there, like more than people. There's been a lot of, I've been single for 6 years, and there's been a lot of girls I've talked to that are like 24, 25, and they grew up on Logan Paul. And they're like, oh my God, Logan Paul, you should get Logan Paul on your show, Justin. You should listen to Logan all the time. And I'm like, oh, wow, you guys are the Logan Paul generation. These people actually exist.
Bro, and it's crazy because
yeah, he has an audience. Like, and I think I get it. Like, it's weird. And it's like, oh, why are you going to bring him to WWE? This is a joke, yada, yada, yada. Who gives a fuck? It's going to get people to watch. It'll get people to tune in and bring us some new fans. WWE's an entertainment company. This isn't AEW. If AEW signed Logan Paul, I'd be like, what the fuck is this? Quote wrestling, unquote wrestling company doing?
I mean, unlike AEW, Logan Paul's actually gonna bring in a new demographic and more viewers. I'm kidding, please don't.
No, it's true. We talked about that earlier.
Yeah, and my point is that like he's really like he shows that he's passionate, dude. Like it's not even
gets instant heat. Like he gets instant heat. Like that's why when I watch that match at WrestleMania, like yo, people just don't like this guy. And a lot of people generally just don't like him, and they don't even know why they don't like him because they've never watched his content. It's just like it's like almost like the fad to be like, oh fuck the Paul brothers.
Yeah,
like and it's like, oh, he gets insane. That's fucking beautiful. If I was the owner working WWE, like, yeah, sign this guy, man. Like people hate him just because he breathes, because he's alive. They just hate him because he exists. Like, you know, like
great business move, and like he just gets it. You know what I mean? Like he's so
he's in WrestleMania with the Eddie shimmy and the frog splash against him. I'm like, yo, this guy's the man. Because I remember saying that watching it. I was with DJ Intense and my cousin Jaden, and we're watching WrestleMania, and I was like, you know what, man? If he does the shimmy when he goes to the top rope, because we all knew he was going for the frog splash because he did the Three Amigos. Yeah. I'm like, if he does the shimmy, I'm fucking dead. And he went up to me, he's like, And I'm like, this guy gets it. He fucking gets it. He knows exactly how to piss these fucking people off. I don't know if someone told him to do that backstage or if he just did it, but he gets it and he did it and it fucking worked and it was fantastic. And I became a Logan Paul fan that day as a wrestler. I don't watch any of his other shit. Like I said, maybe once in Blue Moon, if I like the guest, I'll listen to Impulsive because I do think it's a entertaining show. But it's not like I don't listen to any podcast every week. But
I think you know what I think is super weird. I think the WWE fans gatekeeping Logan Paul, like, oh, we know you're really good, but we don't want you in our world. Like that's so stupid. Like why?
Wrestling fans generally,
but it's so stupid. Like go outside, go get some bitches, go get some go touch some grass. Like fuck, man. Like you guys
go touch some grass and get some bitches.
It pisses me off. Like you want to like be open to new ideas, new stars, and sure, like Logan Paul might not be your ideal quote unquote star, but like you can't just sit here and be like closed minded on this. Like you know what I mean? Like give it a chance. Like see what he's really capable of. And I think it's good. I think it's good business. I think it's a good business move overall by Stephanie McMahon, my CEO. I think it's great, man.
My CEO.
Hell yeah, it's my CEO.
Moving forward, we do have to make Money in the Bank predictions. And that all being said, so we're obviously recording this before SmackDown airs tonight. So we don't know who the last person in the men's Money in the Bank match is going to be as of right now. I do think it's going to be someone on the roster. Maybe it'll be Ricochet. Maybe it'll be somebody. I don't know. It'll be somebody, right? Maybe they'll have another Battle Royal tonight. I don't know. But I still think it'd be funny as hell if it was Logan Paul.
Bro, I remember you said this on the live yesterday, and I think, dude, nuclear heat, man. That shit would be.
If Logan Paul is in the Money in the Bank match somehow last second, or even if he comes out the last minute like Brock did that one year, and like he gets introduced to be the last final part. Like I just think if he's in there, that shit would be hilarious. I didn't realize Miz wasn't in the match. It would have been perfect if Miz was, but regardless of fact, Logan Paul in there. Even if Logan Paul won it, it'd be like, what?
Yeah,
this man. Now you have Logan Paul on Impulsive with the Money in the Bank briefcase every week talking about cash in. Maybe I'm gonna go to SummerSlam. Maybe I'm gonna go to this random pay-per-view in October. Like maybe I'm gonna go to Clash of the Like he's just claiming that he's gonna go. Like you know what I mean? On Instagram post sitting in a jet with the Money in the Bank briefcase. Like where am I going next? Maybe I'm gonna show up in this town. Like
dude, and it's funny because there's a cross platform. Like he can just do his own thing. He can go on Impulsive and just drop WWE, and like people are going to talk about it regardless because he's one of the biggest influencers.
If I was WWE, I think that would be the greatest fucking. Obviously, let's talk about it really, really quickly. What were you gonna go and say? What you were gonna say though?
No, I was gonna say like back in the day, like they would bring in like Mike Tyson and all these like these big celebs and like actors and everything. Now, like when you think about like actors, actresses like that are in the acting world in the Hollywood scene, like there's not too many that are gonna come to your mind. Like there's Tom Holland, there's Zendaya and everybody, but like you bring them on TV and that's it. Like I feel like Logan Paul's a bigger reach than all those people. And I think like I'm not trying to sound like a fanboy, but like dude, like it's so cool to see someone from the outside world, from the influencing world to do this. Like
it's your generation. It's your generation.
Oh, it's cool because like you met Joe Weller. That guy.
I didn't even know who he was when I met him. That's how much it's not my generation. I showed you the picture and I was like, I even met this guy. I don't know who he is.
Oh, bro, I got so hyped. But it was
Peter Chow followed me. I had no idea who he was. Shout out to Peter Chow. That's my boy.
Listen. Let me make this point. You can move on. Him, Joe Weller, and KSI were the first people to have a YouTube boxing event. If it wasn't for those people, like, bro, it would. I don't know where the whole thing would be right now, but it's so cool to see where everything's evolving in the world and how social media has helped, achieve those things. And I'm saying, like, I think let's just keep moving, let's keep growing, and like, dude, I'm so fucking hyped, dude. Like, beyond stoked. I might be a full-time WWE fan again. This is great.
Because of Logan Paul, out of all people.
Fucking wild, right?
The other participants in the Money in the Bank match for the men is Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, Sheamus, Omos, Sami Zayn, Riddle, and obviously the to be determined. That being said, like obviously there are some good picks here, like Drew winning and then cashing in, being like, I challenge Roman at Clash of the Castle or whatever would make a lot of sense. Sami winning and just having the briefcase for a little bit of time would be fun and entertaining. And also potentially Sami could win the big one. one day, which would be cool. And Riddle's obviously a big option since he's been really popular with RK Bro, but we've had this conversation on here a bunch of times where, like, even myself, it's just not for me. This whole Riddle run and this Riddle push, like, I like Riddle, but I don't know what it is. It's just not for me. Right now, he's just like dedicating everything to Randy Orton and doing Randy's moves. Like, it's almost as if like Randy at this point needs to come back and beat the crap out of Riddle. I don't know. But the only other person in here that I like, if I had to make a prediction now, for making a prediction, if it's not Logan Paul, then I predict Seth Rollins. I just think Seth would be. I know it's like Seth doesn't need it. Seth is established. Seth can get a title shot if he wants one. But the idea of Seth cashing in on Roman and Brock again is just money.
Oh, it's great. It's like an icing on the cake. It's like waking up next to a hot girl on a Sunday morning. I don't know.
Because let's look at Seth, like the Drew McIntyre thing and challenging Roman, that makes sense too. But just the fact that, like, out of all of Roman Reigns' opponents that he's had since winning this championship, the one that got in his head the most outside of maybe Brock was Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins knows Roman's game. He knows Roman just as well as Roman knows Roman. They rode together in the Shield. In 2015, when everyone was kind of about Roman versus Brock, Seth saved us. I don't think we'd be talking about WrestleMania 31's match between Brock and Roman as much as we do if it wasn't for the heist of the century. If Seth was to cash in again on a Roman and Brock match, I know it's repetitive, but history repeats itself, and it's kind of funny.
I think it'd be good. I think it would definitely get people.
And only for one of the belts, like for the WWE title, maybe let Roman keep his Universal title, and then the whole long-term story of Cody comes back at the Rumble, wins the Rumble, we get Cody versus Seth at WrestleMania again next year. Like, I think it's cool. I'm with it.
No, I think it's been good, man. I'm with you on that. Little disagreement on the winner of the match. I personally want Sami Zayn. I think he's been working his tail off for the last couple of years, and like he's proved to be one of the, if not the entertaining guy on the show. And I'd love to see Sami with that contract and see how it would unfold. But seeing Seth again would definitely be a good nostalgia.
So I say Seth, you say Sami.
I say Sami.
I think we both agree that if it's Drew, this is not your prediction, Sami, and prediction Seth, but we both agree if it's Drew, that wouldn't be surprising. Unfortunately, I don't see it being Sheamus or Omos.
No.
I could see it potentially being Riddle, but it's not for both of us. We've talked about that. Like
I think maybe it could happen, but I don't know.
And then the cherry on top is if it's Logan Paul is the TBD. But we'll find out tonight on SmackDown who the last person is. It probably won't be Logan Paul, but I just think that if I was a WWE man, I just like you'd be like, I know maybe he has prior obligations or something, and he probably wouldn't be able to. Maybe that's the reason why. But man, like, get that guy in there, get him the briefcase. You got like WWE promotion for the next like however months you want him to hold it for. Like, he's gonna promote that shit every week on his show and whatever he does. Like, I'm the Money in the Bank. I got a contract to go after the WWE Championship whenever I want. And then next year at WrestleMania, give us Logan Paul versus Brock Lesnar. That will put fucking asses in seats.
This man's on crack. I love it.
But when I say that shit, everyone's like, why? Because I'm like, one, so many people hate this guy. They're going to want to see Brock Lesnar murder him. And then for fucking honest, let Brock Lesnar murder him. And then for weeks after that, have Logan Paul show up on fucking Impulsive in a neck brace like Andy Kaufman. Like, just selling it for like months after. Like, oh, I'm going to ask it from Brock Lesnar.
Bro, that shit would be so jokes. I love it, man. That's what makes good entertainment, right? So I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
No, definitely. What is the other thing that is going on here? Those are my pictures for that. Ronda Rousey versus Natalya. I think Ronda retains. I would love for Natty to win because more for the fact that I feel like Ronda's just not in it this time around. She doesn't feel interested or intrigued in her role at all. It seems like she's just there, to be honest. I did like the segment last week when Natty dressed up as Ronda, but outside of that, it's been a pretty lackluster rivalry. So I'm gonna have to go with Ronda. Daniel?
Yeah, I guess Ronda to keep moving forward and seeing, what happens next.
Yeah, I don't know what else you could really do that's gonna make a huge difference. The Usos are defending the tag team titles against the Street Profits for both sets of tag belts. I just don't see the Usos losing them yet.
No.
I'd be down for the Street Profits to win them. I'm gonna have to go with the Usos. If Roman's not defending and losing his belts on this show, then why would the Usos lose theirs already?
Oh, he's not on the show, right, Roman?
No, he's not on the show.
Crazy.
Austin Theory versus Bobby Lashley for the United States Championship. This one's up in the air just in the fact of like, does Theory retain?
So apparently, I was just going through Twitter right now, and it said Cena's not even supposed to be at SummerSlam wrestling. So that makes me think that like we're gonna have the match at WrestleMania.
Oh wow!
So I guess it's gonna be a long build, but hey, strap in.
Well, then Theory retains, I guess.
That would be the most logical thing.
Which is dumb because I don't want to see Lashley losing that. And to be honest with you, like
his momentum's hot right now. So.
Yeah, but I also don't want to see him win the U.S. title. I want him to go after the WWE Championship again whenever it's not held hostage anymore. It's kind of a weird situation, yeah. Because like, I don't want to see him as a U.S. champion again. I want to see him go after the WWE title, but we don't have a WWE title because it's held hostage. And I don't want to see Bobby lose, but I also don't think Theory should lose then.
Yeah, it's a weird, complicated situation. It's complicated.
I mean, if it ends in some sort of DQ, no count out situation, then cool. But otherwise, like, nah, I don't know. Like, it's weird. Bianca Belair versus Carmella. Yo, shout out to Carmella for being reliable, versatile, one of the most unique women in this division that you could place in any segment or really character role, and she could rock it, whether it's comedic, whether it's serious, whether it's in a tag team. Carmella's there and she's game. Whether you want to put her in a stupid mask, she'll make it work. Shout out to her. But Bianca's obviously retaining here. And it was originally supposed to be Bianca versus Rhea Ripley, but Rhea's hurt, so Carmella stepped in as a replacement, which is kind of a bummer. I would have loved Carmella to be in the Money in the Bank match, but her getting title shots, I'm never going to complain about it because, you know, it shows that they trust her enough. I think she's in a position enough that like Rhea Carmella title shots not the end of the world. And Carmella and Bianca have worked together a ton in the past, and they work well together. I don't think Carmella gets enough credit for being someone that a lot of people can work with, and it goes well. Like she's worked with Liv, Sasha, Bianca, and they've all been like solid matches to an extent. So, yeah, it'll be good, and I think Bianca retains. Obviously,
yeah, I agree. Yeah,
I think Bianca. The only other thing was this. Okay, and I actually had this discussion earlier today in the Discord, or somewhere else. I don't know, but what if Bianca does lose for some sort of cheating reason, and whoever wins the Money in the Bank cashes in on Carmella and she loses the belt right then and there? Because that leaves the door open for one thing. Or you could cash in on Bianca. There's a couple of problems with this though. I don't like the fact that nobody's held for the women's side of things, that nobody's actually held the briefcase longer than 48 hours since Carmella. So whoever does win, I hope they hold it for a bit. But this opens up the opportunity of Bianca being able to win the belt back in Nashville, which is technically her home state.
Oh, in Texas, not fuck. In SummerSlam, right?
Yeah.
Fucked up.
But Tennessee's the home state, and I think like for her to win the belt back there would be like a big deal. But don't worry, she could defend it and just retain it, and it'll still be a big deal. But I just mean like for her to win it back, there would be like, oh, you know. But that would mean either she loses to Carmella and Carmella's cashed in on, and I only like that because at least it'll give Carmella the credibility to be like, you are a 2-time women's champion now. But even if Bianca just gets cashed in on, then it's still, you know.
No, I think that's a pretty good route to go about things. I'd actually be down with that. And there's more.
I just hope it's not Becky though.
Continuity. Yeah, that's the thing. There's more continuity with that too in terms of storytelling, and I think like it further just, you know, shows Bianca's struggle onto climbing the top of the ladder.
Well, what's my biggest complaint that I have had with so many babyface champions, whether it's AJ Styles or Hangman Page or whatever? I'm like, I don't like it when a babyface champion wins a belt and just keeps winning. I like it when they have to like lose it and chase it again, or they have to go through some struggle. If Bianca just won the belt, a few months ago at WrestleMania, right? If she gets cashed in on and loses it, but then gets to win it back at SummerSlam, like people will stay with her momentum a little bit longer because it's more exciting than her just winning and winning and winning and winning and winning and winning. You know what I mean? So, because listen, man, it doesn't matter if you have long reigns or short reigns. As the years go by, people don't remember how long or short your reigns were. For the most part, they remember how many times you won it. Randy Orton's reigns, a lot of them are like 2 days or an hour or like a week. Like people don't remember that shit. They just remember how many times you won it. So like if Bianca was to lose it and win it again, well, that makes her like what 3-time women's champion. Like that's dope. Good for you. Like you won it 3 times already. Sasha and Charlotte are perfect examples too, because they were losing the titles to each other month for month, but that stacked up their number a lot higher. And of course, we still remember that because it's really fresh in our memories because it just happened. But years from now, you're just gonna be saying, "Oh, Sasha was a 5-time women's champion." You know, beyond Charlotte's like a 12, 13-time women's champion or whatever it is now.
I don't know how that happened. Jeez.
Yeah. So that being all said, the women's Money in the Bank match is the last one we have to make a prediction for. It's Lacey Evans, Alexa Bliss, Liv Morgan, Raquel, Asuka, Shotzi, and Becky Lynch. Wow. I didn't realize Alexa was even in here. I forgot. Who do you got?
I'm going to go with Shotzi. I think it's
This guy's drunk.
Wow. What? You know, bro, that's a valid pick.
It is. It'd actually be like unpredictable. And like, what?
No, what were you trying to say about Shotzi? No, I think it's good because like, it helps build a star, and like you can market Shotzi very well because like the green hair, the tank. I don't know if she still does it, but there's a lot more value into putting the briefcase onto Shotzi. I would say.
I don't want Becky to win this. That's all I'm gonna say. I think they might go the route where Becky wins this and gets another title shot and they go Becky and Bianca at SummerSlam. There's too many rematches in this fucking company. We've seen Brock and Roman too many times, and we're starting to see Becky and Bianca. It feels like too many times. I don't want Becky to win this. I know they feel like she's the star and that's like who they should get behind, but Becky doesn't need this briefcase to get a title shot. She's at that place in her career. You could say the same thing about Seth, and I get that, and I did say that, but it's just like it's fun with Seth. Becky with the briefcase, I don't know. I'm gonna predict Liv. I predict Liv. I feel like every year, but I feel like the only way Liv winning a championship that would make the most sense is if she cashes on someone that's already got their ass kicked, and I'll be like, "Oh, that's funny."
Bro, ever since she did that John Cena video, I just stopped cheering for Liv.
Even Ariel Hawani is rooting for Liv. He puts in
I don't know.
That man's turned into a chill. He's turned into a chill.
Watch wrestling, I swear to God.
I'm gonna go with Liv Morgan. Now, once again, my fear is that Becky Lynch might just win this.
Wow.
My other fear, I don't see it being Raquel. Yeah, I don't see it being Shotzi.
Wow.
Definitely don't see it being Asuka. It could be Alexa, but I don't see it. Like Alexa and Asuka are 2 other people that don't need it. Like, the only other one I think it could be, and I hope it's not, but it's a WWE, is Lacey Evans. I feel like they might just give it to Lacey Evans.
Nah.
2 days before July the 4th. God bless America.
Yes, that makes sense. That's
For
actually
groups. Lacey Evans is our Miss Money in the Bank. Like, that's the only thing. There's 2 things that scare me. It's Becky Lynch and Lacey Evans because I want Liv to win.
Now that you say that, the whole, 4th of July thing. Yeah, I don't know. It could be Lacey. It very well could be Lacey.
It could be Lacey Evans.
Hey, man, I didn't.
Someone behind, even if she cashes and loses or she cashes win, like it's just someone behind.
Yeah, I didn't hate her 2019 run when she.
I missed the old character. I missed the Southern Belle.
That's what I liked.
I wanted her to beat Becky after Becky won the belt at WrestleMania 35.
I did too.
I remember that. If you one listeners remember me saying I wanted her to beat Becky Lynch. I don't know. That all being said, that's Money in the Bank, I guess. So Liv's my prediction. Shotzi is Daniel's.
He's not taking it seriously.
That's the 6 matches that we know are booked as of right now. There's still SmackDown.
Only 6.
Well, the SmackDown tonight. Something might change. Something might be added. We don't know who the last member of the men's is. We'll probably find out tonight. I'm still hoping it's Logan Paul.
This guy loves Logan Paul now. Logan
Paul. I'm a character storyline guy, and I feel like that guy is just an instant character.
Influencer, douchebag.
Yeah, like he's like, they try to make a Grayson Waller and all these people, like Tyler Breeze. Like, you got Logan Paul, he's already the guy.
Yeah. That's fair.
Logan Paul is already more over than Dominic. And he doesn't even have a wrestling dad. Dominic needs to go to NXT 2.0.
Dominic, I'm your papi.
Dominic,
I don't know.
The Punjabi prodigy of wrestling. That all being said, is there anything else you want to add, Daniel? I think that's it.
Go check out my Instagram, Daniel M8. I'm gonna be posting cool shit on there. Started training for wrestling. Taking this a little more seriously, and go subscribe to the Dropkick Podcast. What's up?
I said you're training.
Oh yeah, I am. I'm excited. See what happens. Go support me, support my journey. Appreciate y'all. Love you. Y'all know the rest.
Yeah, and then as for myself, guys, I didn't mention it earlier. I forgot to, but make sure you guys check out my recent article that I wrote for 1:37 p.m. about the 25 most memorable work shoot promos that made us feel like it was real, like they are actually saying what they meant to say, and it was off the script. Check that out. The link is in my bio. Make sure you guys join the Discord. The link's in my bio. If the link isn't working, let me know. I probably have to update it. And outside of that, make sure you subscribe to the TWC Show. Look out for my interview with Wardlow. We'll be dropping this week. It's a really good one. Daniel's already got to listen to it. He enjoyed it. So and if you're in the Discord, you got early access to it as well. So you guys check it out. Other than that, I think that's the end, man. It's a very long episode. I apologize. It was Julie's first time. I didn't give her the rules that we're trying to keep it under an hour, and she got really into Forbidden Door. But she will definitely be back on here sometime. Huh?
Nothing. I'm a dick. Sorry, Julie. You're cool.
I don't know what he just said, but we will keep doing the thing, and I'll see you all later. Ooh, yeah, dig it.